This is a model that you may have seen in the past, but I want to touch on it here before we get started, because the layers that you see here are frequently referred to in DOS attacks. The OSI model of computer networking, or in other words, the Open Systems Interconnection model, which is a conceptual model that characterizes and standardizes the communication functions of a computing system. And this is all about the logical layers of the underlying internal structure and technology. So think of it as a model that helps explain how these systems are put together. The relevance to denial of service attacks is that two of these layers in particular tend to feature for different styles of attack. When we see references to attacks against layer 7, very often it means attacks against these top three layers. And indeed, there is some criticism of the OSI model in terms of the way it represents this segmentation. A lot of the time when we see talk about a layer 7 DOS attack, it may well be against protocols such as HTTP. And certainly some of the attacks we'll look at in this module do target the application directly over that hypertext transport protocol. The other layer where we frequently see DOS attacks against is layer 4, the transport layer, and we particularly see attacks against protocols such as TCP and UDP. Now these are attacks specifically against that underlying protocol, so what sits underneath the abstraction, which often includes protocols such as HTTP and FTP. So it's a lower level attack against the foundational level for the application, which then sits on top of it and then runs over protocols such as HTTP and FTP. We're going to take a really good look, particularly at TCP and UDP attacks in this module. So that's just a brief introduction of that OSI model, because again, we do see many references to layer 7 and layer 4 DOS attacks. So I just wanted to be really clear about what's meant by those two terms. Now, before we start talking about actual attack styles, I just want to look at one more thing, and that's the role of botnets in DDoS attacks.